Property developing can be a gamble at the best of times, but the more unique the property, the bigger the gamble.
It has kind of been an eye-opener, I have to say.
I wouldn't buy a listed house again.
Really?
I don't know, I think I would.
I wouldn't. Not if you were talking about big development. I think it's just not worth the hassle.
Buying a 17th century farmhouse and lovingly restoring it presents a very romantic image. But property developing isn't about romance, it's about profit.
It would be so easy to fall in love with this house. Set in 7 acres of land on the outskirts of Hastings, it's a stunning property just 5 minutes from the south coast. But for Emma and Dylon Watkins, the house is a financial investment. They're hoping it will make them a 6-figure profit to put towards buying their dream home.
It's going to be difficult not to fall in love with this place. I mean, it is in an absolutely stunning setting, and it's a lovely house. And if we do it how we think we're going to do it, then it's going to be very hard to let it go.
Letting it go is what property developing is all about. But my worry is that the demand for this kind of property won't be high in Hastings. The house hasn't been touched for 30 years and needs a lot of work to bring it up to scratch. Part Tudor, part Georgian, it has a sprawling and complicated layout. With 15 rooms in total, there's a choice of 4 reception rooms, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and 2 more attic rooms. It's a very brave choice for a first development, especially since Emma's 6 months pregnant and Dyson's a commercial pilot spending a lot of time abroad.
We know there's going to be really tough challenges along the way, and it is going to get stressful, and we are going to be tired. We're not going to have had enough sleep with a new baby.
Might run out of money.
And yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's going to be a nightmare, but at the same time, it is really exciting.
There's a lot riding on this project. Emma and Dyson have sold their own home and taken on a huge mortgage. They've even moved in with Emma's mum to save money.
What an amazing house. So how much did you buy it for?
580.
580,000?
Yeah.
How much were you planning on spending doing it up?
When we first came round, we were hoping to spend around 80 with a sort of maximum threshold of 100,000. But I think, including the actual costs of purchasing the house, which is, you know, stamp duty was 24,000 and moving costs and everything else, we're probably looking at about 135,000. So
Right.
that's including all fixtures and fittings, all buildings works, everything.
How much are you planning on selling it for then?
850.
So if you do spend £135,000,
Yeah.
you would make...
Around about 130 if we sold for 850 with
Yeah.
estate agents' fees taken out on top of that. But that would be our dream figure, wouldn't it, I think?
Yeah.
That's a really good profit. Having said that, it's a very big investment at that sort of level. You're
Yeah.
talking about £750,000 investment.
So they bought the property for £580,000. Their original budget of £80,000 has already increased to £135,000. If they sell for £850,000, that gives them a handsome profit of £135,000. But it's a big gamble. Even though they've already increased their budget, I'm not sure it's enough to create a property worth £850,000. This development needs a lot of work to transform it into a luxury family home. What's more, it's Grade 2 listed, so renovating it will take longer and cost more. There's a lot of red tape involved regarding what you can do and how you must do it. I really wouldn't recommend a listed building for inexperienced developers, especially one as large as this. The front door opens into a large hallway, with the kitchen on one side and a reception room on the other. There's a downstairs bathroom, another reception room and a pantry, both of which lead through into a huge reception room in the older part of the building. And a door leads out onto a patio with an outside loo. Upstairs in the Georgian part of the house at the front there are 2 bedrooms and a family bathroom. Then in the older part of the house there's a 3rd bedroom, the only one with its own ensuite, and at the back of the house is the 4th and largest bedroom. Finally there's a 5th bedroom with access to 2 attic rooms.
And so what are you going to do in here? Presumably just rip the kitchen out and put a new kitchen in?
Ideally, we'd love to knock through this back wall, turn it into quite a large sort of kitchen come sort of breakfast room if we could. And
It certainly makes sense. I mean, this sort of chunky, big family house in the country, it suits our lifestyles nowadays to have very big kitchen restrooms that you can hang out in all day.
Absolutely.
So this is the wall you're going to knock down in here, is it?
Yeah.
Right. So this one here.
Yes.
Well, that seems to make sense.
You don't need a downstairs bathroom this big.
No.
It's just a question of if we get planning permission, because it's grade 2 listed.
There's a listing.
Most of Emma and Dyson's changes require listed building consent, including the alterations to one of the reception rooms.
A lovely big fireplace. Do you have plans for this room?
Yeah, we're hoping to knock through either one side or the other. There's
Right.
another room next door which only has outside exit. We're thinking about turning that into a utility room.
I personally would probably not do that. I don't think it warrants having access through, because it's not an obvious room to have access through to a utility space outside.
On Emma and Dyson's budget, they need to prioritise their work carefully. I agree that it's essential to create a large, modern kitchen breakfast room in a property of this size. But I'm not sure about their plans for the reception room. Knocking a doorway through to the outside loo won't actually add any value to the property. And because this is a listed building, I'd recommend keeping the alterations to an absolute minimum.
So how many bedrooms have you got up here then?
5 main bedrooms and potentially 2 attic rooms.
Right. That's a fantastic view. That's the sea, isn't it?
Yeah, you're about 5 minutes from the cliffs from here.
So it's a brilliant location.
The house could be a real winner, but getting the layout right isn't straightforward. It's got good-sized bedrooms, but the only one with an ensuite is a bit small, so they want to create a master bedroom at the back of the house.
So why do you want to have this as the master bedroom?
I think it's one of the largest bedrooms in the house, although it doesn't have the high ceilings of the Georgian part, but also it's just got that feeling about it. It's got a beautiful fireplace in the corner, it's got the lovely old windows, you know, it's got the sort of original oak beams on the end.
It's difficult, it's complicated, the layout, isn't it?
Yeah.
absolutely.
To add an ensuite, Emma and Dyson want to knock through from this bedroom and then squeeze a shower room into the tiny space at the foot of the staircase up to the attic. I don't think this is a great idea.
I personally wouldn't put the ensuite in where you're planning, because I think it's quite an awkward space. It's going to be extraordinary going through a bathroom to get up to the attic space. You have an adequate number of bathrooms. Do them well, make it a good-sized kitchen breakfast room, do that well, make the building sound in terms of the roof and the plumbing and the wiring, and I think that's all you can really be expected to do on the budget you've got.
The budget's already increased from £80,000 to £135,000. They've allocated £49,000 for building work, £11,220 for the roof and guttering, £7,800 to rewire the house, £8,000 for all the plumbing and central heating, £11,500 for a new kitchen, which will include an Aga. For 2 new bathrooms, they've allocated £6,480, £41,000 in fees, stamp duty and mortgage repayments brings them to a total of £135,000.
It's such a big house, it's going to cost a lot of money to do. You could easily spend £250,000 doing this house
absolutely,
up.
yeah.
It's also grade 2 listed, which is going to make problems greater. And you're away with work a lot, aren't you? So are you going to be helping on this, or is it all down to...
There is going to be a large portion of my working month while I am abroad, yeah, so Emma will be pretty much the liaison for everything.
So, I mean, are you confident that you can run this site?
No, I'm not worried about running the site. I am slightly nervous about the fact that I'm about to have a baby. So that might be interesting. But we've got 2.5 months until that happens.
It's a very ambitious development to have taken on this, with all the issues of the fact it's listed, not to mention the fact you're having a baby and the amount of work that needs doing. So I do think you're very brave to have taken it on. The question is whether you can eke a profit out of the other end.
That's the difficult thing.
And it will be difficult. A property is only ever as good as its location, and despite a stunning setting, this house is on the outskirts of Hastings, where there isn't much of a market for luxury homes. This could be bad news for Emma and Dyson's £850,000 asking price. I hope they're not in for a bumpy ride.
I wouldn't buy a listed house again.
Really? I don't know, I think I would.
I wouldn't. Not if you were talking about big development. I think it's just not worth the hassle.
This 5-bedroom listed farmhouse on the outskirts of Hastings could make Emma and Dylon Watkins a lot of money. They've invested almost £750,000, and they're hoping for £135,000 clear profit.
It's a big risk from our point of view, and if it comes off, then, you know, it's the beginning of the good luck for us.
But they're taking a very big gamble. The property is Grade 2 listed, and Emma and Dyson have no idea whether the Conservation Department will allow them to make the changes they want to turn it into a luxury home. What's more, I'm not sure the Hastings property market can carry a top-end development like this. Emma is trying to project manage the build herself, whilst holding down a full-time job, and is also about to have her first baby. She's got a lot on her plate.
It is going to be hard. I mean, God, don't get us wrong, but we are doing it together. At the same time, if it was easy, anyone would do it.
They've £135,000 to turn this property around, but on a project like this, that won't go that far. The windows need to be reconditioned, the roof is in a terrible state, and they won't know just how bad until the tiles come off. What they do know, though, is that the leaks have already brought down one of the ceilings. So on day one of the work beginning, they've brought in a structural engineer to assess the damage.
The ideal solution from a structural point of view is to replace that timber. It's quite badly decayed.
OK.
But it's how justifiable is that? I mean, certainly from there up to there, it's so badly decayed, we'd have to go back up to there in any case. My view is
we should replace it.
It should really be replaced.
OK, so do we just go ahead and do that, or do we need to...
I'm not sure with regard to the conservation officers. I'll write a brief report on what I found. You present that to them, and then they'll take a view on it as well.
Yeah.
Emma and Dyson are going to have to get used to this. Almost every square foot of this development needs to be approved by the Conservation Department. Restoring a listed building is more complicated than first appears, but can be worth it.
You should never buy a listed building without knowing exactly what you're letting yourself in for. They take more time and money than other developments, so you need to be prepared.
If the building's listed, you'll need listed building consent for any work, to the inside and out, if it affects the character of the building. That can mean pretty well everything, from replacing windows to changing doorknobs, even re-plumbing. The key is to contact your local planning department to discuss your plans. And remember, obtaining consent takes time, so don't leave it until the last minute.
You can avoid a lot of red tape if the work you are doing is a straightforward repair or replacement using like-for-like materials. In that case, you probably don't need consent, but it's a good idea to run your plans past the council anyway to check you both agree what is like-for-like.
Whatever happens, don't ever consider carrying out building works without getting proper approval. These rules are there to protect our heritage, and you could be prosecuted and forced to put it right. It's day 4, and as the roofers get to work stripping off the tiles, Emma and Dyson are about to find out just how bad the main roof is. Replacing the whole thing would cost £20,000, and they've got £10,000 in their budget.
It's structurally okay, it's just old. At the end of the day, the timbers are just old, so... It's good news for the developer. It'd be quite a huge expense if we had to re-pitch the roof.
Yeah, quite pleased, actually, because I thought that could have been a real deep hole of finance, as it were. So I like the fact that the speed's going along well, because, I mean, time is money, are the old cliche, but it's bloody true, isn't it, really? As soon as we get this house turned around and on the market, and especially with the garden's going to look fantastic in the summer, then timing's everything, really, so...
Emma and Dyson plan to get this property finished in 6 months. Though their baby is due in 3 months, they want to try to get the bulk of the work done whilst project manager Emma is still able to run this massive development. But it's week 2 and the schedule's slipping and the budget's rising. The builders are providing 18th century building techniques at very 21st century prices.
Obviously, using original materials, like-for-like materials, like we're using here at the lime plasters, your costs are basically going to increase threefold. Not only for the materials, which are roughly 3 times more expensive, but also for the labour taken into it. Mark has been working in this room now for about 4 days. If we were using modern materials, I'd have expected it to actually be finished and ready for decoration within 2 or 3 days. So like I say, I think he's still got about another week's work in here.
Emma and Dyson had allowed £49,000 for labour and materials, but already that doesn't look as though it's going to be enough. Everything is taking longer than expected, even stripping the panel trim for repainting.
It's been a really hard job, a labour of love.
There are no shortcuts to developing a listed building, and nothing is as straightforward as you think it's going to be.
Planning officers need to have a documentation of the windows, where they're going. So I have to take a picture of each window with their labels on, where they're from, then have to send a letter in with the photos, and then I have to get a letter back from the planning officer saying that we're allowed to take them off-site. I suppose the reason is that, you know, they don't want you to lose the windows in the process, which is fine. It's just a slight curveball I got yesterday.
Emma's just starting to realise the scale of the development she's taken on. There are over 40 windows that need renovating. That's a lot of window and a lot of money. They've allocated £6,000 to have them all refurbished, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. But the windows aren't their only worry. They want to create a large kitchen breakfast room at the heart of the house. But this involves knocking down a wall, which means approval from the Conservation Department. 3 weeks into the project, they've just heard back.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sarah.
Is it good or bad news?
We didn't get the thing that we wanted most of all, which is the wall between the kitchen and the bathroom.
Yeah.
They're not happy with you knocking this down?
No.
But we knew that it was the biggest hurdle. It was the thing we wanted most, but we knew that it was going to be the thing that we were least likely to get.
Right. Because that was quite a major thing, really, for this house. Is to
Yeah,
get
we would have
some
loved to have done it, but...
It would have been amazing. It would have been amazing.
But hopefully that will be the end of it.
I think it's the tip of the iceberg.
Unfortunately, Emma seems to be right, because their plans to create an ensuite bathroom upstairs have also been rejected. One trick when you're developing a listed building that will save you time, money and disappointment is to try to work with the current layout of the house. And I think Emma and Dyson's kitchen breakfast room is more achievable than they think.
And I was just thinking that the back of the house is very often traditionally where you kind of hang out. And this room here, it's actually a lovely, massive room. And I'm just wondering if you make this into the kitchen, breakfast, family room, all in one, with doors opening onto the garden. And actually, as a big space to hang out in as a family, it would be lovely in here.
Yeah.
And you could have kitchen units around that area, and maybe a table here with the fire and a sitting room.
I really like the idea, actually.
Actually, really... I have to say I do as well.
Yeah.
Damn you!
I think it's a really good idea. I think it's for the type of thing that people want from a kitchen nowadays, and also from living in general. They want open spaces, and this is a fantastic... I mean, I can't believe we didn't think of it.
This kitchen could be spectacular. Putting the units at one end of the room would free up the rest of the space for a large kitchen table and a spacious sofa area. But even putting the kitchen breakfast room here isn't without its own complications, because Emma and Dyson need approval from the Conservation Department for the plumbing and pipework and installing their Aga.
Well, ideally, I think, for us, the Aga has to go there because of the flue going straight out that wall.
Yeah, that's
But if they say we put on that side, then we're going to lose the flue or to chase the flue, it's going to cost an absolute fortune, so we won't have an Aga.
And we are going to have fun with the... It's going to be a question of getting around that, the conservation.
We've done everything for them so far. We've put plaster, we've put all the
I think we do have to.
We're taking the windows, you know, that's the only thing we're really asking for.
Yeah.
It's now 4 weeks into this 24-week development, and the conservation officers are due to visit the site. Emma's hoping that the remaining work will qualify as like-for-like repairs, because otherwise it's an 8-week wait for official consent, which is 8 weeks she simply doesn't have.
Sorry, James. Can you move the ladder so I can get in? I don't like walking underneath ladders.
What do you mean if it's...
Yes. Just bear with me. That's nice and nice, Hov.
Is that all right?
Don't change the angle. Thanks, James.
It's the day of the visit, and Emma is understandably nervous. Top of the agenda is the drains.
Right. Right. The drains are a combination of plastic and cast iron, and we have to kind of relook at this and get it more efficient.
Yes.
What are your views?
But it needs to be in cast iron. If you're doing any replacement, it has to be in cast iron. So
Right,
we
even
need
if
to agree
for the
runs.
plastic bits?
Yes, yeah. I think certainly it needs consent for anything other than that, and I think we always want to go back to cast iron wherever possible.
Right. Because it was, I understand it was like for like.
Right.
Can we have plastic guttering, please?
Okay.
Otherwise you're going to bankrupt me.
Ideally, we really would like to go back to cast iron.
This is a big setback. There's nothing in the budget to pay for cast iron guttering, which will cost at least £8,000. And the bad news doesn't stop there. Emma needs to replace the rotten beam in the ceiling, but the conservation officers want her to apply in writing.
It has to be replaced. From a structural point of view, it's not safe, and it's there isn't a good solution.
I mean, we don't want to sort of hold up the work.
No.
But, you know, if you do anything without the consent, it is...
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's a like-for-like replacement...
If it's just repair,
Yes.
a like-for-like replacement, that's fine.
That's what we're doing.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we're doing. It's basically a like-for-like replacement. It's not like... We're not changing the integrity of the building.
A drawing up front would help, and then from that we can judge whether or not it needs to be part of a listed building application, or whether it's a straightforward like-for-like, in which case you could just go ahead with it.
I'm just thinking about, to be honest, time is that, you know, it's going to take 8 weeks for that approval to come through. It's just another 8 weeks delay of work that I can't do on my guys, and I'm paying these guys on a daily rate. It's my interpretation was that it was a like-for-like repair.
The conservation officers are keen to retain as much of the building as possible.
Let's talk about Argos.
Right.
But that doesn't bode well for their plans for the Arga.
This is almost the perfect spot.
Right.
So we have two options with the flue. Is that we can either go external, or what we can do is, as far as possible, go internal, so that we minimise the impact on the outside of the building.
That means going up through ceilings, and ideally we try and take the flue through a chimney.
Yeah,
which is what
means
you've got
going
there.
there.
Yes, yeah. That's the obvious place for it to go, with the chimney.
Yeah.
That's sort of at the heart of the room then.
That's a compromise.
I think the thing is, it's just going to be sticking right out the front there, and it's going to look terrible. It is going to look absolutely terrible.
Emma's beginning to feel anxious, but needs to manage the situation very carefully.
I'm in sales and I can see buying signals, and you're not giving me any. I'm getting a lot of no's and no yeses at the moment. All I'm asking for is some flexibility, and I don't think I'm getting any of that at the moment.
It's very difficult to be flexible with this.
Yeah.
We're flexible where we can be, but there are some areas where you can't be flexible, and that's because you undermine the character of the building.
We're having to agree on everything that you guys are saying. We've done everything, and we're getting very little back on this. And I don't think that's the way it should be. I do think it should be a compromise.
But we don't want to be difficult.
Sorry, I need a glass of water.
The realisation that the officers won't change their minds proves too much for Emma.
I'm really gutted, really gutted. Got a lot on my plate. I've got 6 weeks left until I become a mother. I'm working full-time, which is, obviously not ideal. Got this huge project, and my husband's away, and it's kind of like, I suppose all of a sudden I felt rather alone in the whole thing.
With so much going on, I just hope Emma's able to see this project through. Whilst the conservation officer's priorities are to preserve the house for the future, Emma needs it to make money.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, thanks for coming round.
Okay, and we'll just wait to hear from you regarding the other information.
Fine,
I think now.
thank you very much for coming.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks a lot.
If we were to do everything they wanted, I reckon it would cost between £8,000 and £12,000. But it's not just the cost, it's also the cost in time. And that is a major factor.
Like many people developing their first listed building, the couple are having some second thoughts.
It has kind of been an eye-opener, I have to say.
I wouldn't buy a listed house again.
Really? I don't know, I think I would.
I wouldn't. Not if you were talking about big development. I think it's just not worth the hassle.
There aren't rules with conservation and listing. There's a bit like being a doctor, you know, there's what you should do and then you interpret each case.
I would say more like a traffic warden.
Well, depends, obviously, you're not too fond of conservation officers at the moment.
No, they won't be invited to the barbecue.
Yeah, no, exactly.
There are the rules that they have to follow and then there's the interpretation of the rules.
Exactly.
And the right approach, I'm absolutely certain, is to be completely upfront at the beginning and say, this is what we want to do, because at the end of the day, they want to see the house maintained and restored.
I agree with you, but if I was developing another Grade 2 listed house, I'd do it all first and then tell them to come around afterwards, and then deny any knowledge of knocking any walls down, personally.
Well, that would be a very silly thing to do.
I totally agree with you.
But that's why you wouldn't buy another Grade 2 listed building.
Emma and Dylon Watkins are renovating this Grade 2 listed farmhouse on the outskirts of Hastings. They've invested £750,000 in the project and they're starting to feel the strain.
I think this could be a real lemon. But, and I don't think it's a big market that we're going to be selling to. It's all up in the air, we just don't know. We could lose a lot, really, couldn't we?
Dyson is right. There isn't a big market in Hastings for this kind of development.
Like many other seaside resorts, Hastings suffered from the decline of British tourism in the 1970s. But unlike its fashionable neighbour Brighton, it hasn't yet totally recovered.
To make matters worse, with interest rates going up, the market has slowed down. And it's Emma and Dyson's end of the market that has been most affected. Sussex estate agents are reporting a 10% drop in asking prices in this price bracket. Other luxury homes in the area are struggling to get anywhere near the £850,000 that Emma and Dyson want.
To value your property, you compare it to the value of a similar house that has recently sold in the area. But in their case, it's such an unusual property that finding a comparable is nigh on impossible.
Take this beautifully restored 5-bedroom period farmhouse nearby. It's on the market for £750,000. But the truth is, even though it's similar, and watching what happens to it will give Emma and Dyson a clue about the general state of the market, it won't actually tell them what they can expect to get for theirs. Emma and Dyson need to get this development finished, especially with their baby due in just 3 weeks. And so, faced with an £8,000 bill for cast iron guttering and the prospect of not being able to fit the Aga, Emma and Dyson do some detective work.
The house was listed back in the 70s, so the plastic guttering was put on before.
So it's actually listed with plastic guttering.
Exactly.
So they then back down on that once you've got the letter.
They said your legal standpoint is that you have to do a like-for-like replacement. It was listed with plastic guttering, therefore we can't make you put cast iron on.
So there's nothing they can do about it, which is fantastic.
We are going to put plastic guttering on, but we're not going to talk about stuff you buy from a cheap
wholesale.
Yeah, we're going to put a nice OG mould, you know, and it's going to look like cast iron, but it just won't cost as much. And also, will last 10 times longer because we're right by the coast.
This information will save them a lot of money. And whilst in some ways it's a shame they aren't restoring the cast iron guttering, Emma and Dyson have tried to develop this building with integrity. And they've had more luck elsewhere too. After initially saying Emma and Dyson needed to put in an application for repairs to rotten timber in the roof, which could take 8 weeks, the conservation officers have now decided that this is a like-for-like repair, which means it can go ahead immediately. And they've even found a way of installing an Aga in their kitchen, which will cause minimal damage to the walls.
This company, a Sussex-based stove company, have come up with a reconditioned Aga. It's only a year old and it uses what's called a power flue, so it uses natural gas. And the flue is only a 2-inch hole, and it doesn't have to have a huge, it just goes straight out, and the little vent is about that big on the back side of of the flue itself. So it's a really it's more expensive for us to put that in.
Right.
But it's a much...
But at least you've found a
At
solution.
least we've got a solution, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it is the most appropriate place because it kind of means that this area here of this room is kitchen.
Yeah, and that would be lovely. So kitchen here and then table there and sitting area there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a fantastic room, this.
I think it will well.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Good idea.
I hope.
Good idea.
This is great news, because in a country house like this, buyers will expect an Aga. But it's come at a price. £6,100 to be exact, and they'd only allocated £3,500. But even though they've overspent on the Aga, they can't afford to scrimp on the kitchen. With this sort of development, it can make or break a sale, and they should think about getting one custom built.
Now, if you're going to be trying to sell your house for over £750,000, you can't afford to put a cheap kitchen in. It's got to be beautifully made, and it's all beautiful kitchens. It's all in the detailing, and these kitchens are beautifully detailed. There isn't a constant kickboard along the bottom. These actually have legs that go down to the ground. The way the drawers are made, you can see they're solid wood with dovetail joints here. They say quality, and I think that what you can't afford to do is have a kitchen that you open the drawer and it sort of flaps around.
For a kitchen in a luxury country home, the devil is in the detail. Though fortunately in a shop like this, even looking at the door handles, you're spoilt for choice.
Like a little black dress and good jewellery.
Yeah.
You can dress up a relatively standard
Yeah,
kitchen with some... If you choose the right... And the wrong handles and the right handles make such a difference. But the key is less is more. If in doubt, do less.
Yeah.
Do you any idea what kind of handles you're going to use?
I think we have to go for something quite traditional because of the type of house it is.
It is quite difficult, your kitchen, actually, because whilst the house is Georgian at the front, where the kitchen is actually a kind of completely different period. So you need to sort of marry the two, and they're not obvious. It's not an obvious mix, really.
No.
Designer custom-built kitchens like these are expensive. They can cost anywhere from £20,000 upwards. But Emma and Dyson don't have that kind of budget, and Dyson's convinced he can design the kitchen and get it built himself.
And I've always been sort of keen to design stuff and see what works and what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, you get exactly what you want then. You don't have to settle for, someone else's idea or eye or sense of scale and proportion.
Luckily for Dyson, Steve, their carpenter, is also a fully trained cabinet maker. Between them, they could save thousands of pounds. They get it wrong, and they could waste thousands.
We're just mocking up a kitchen design that Dyson's got in his head to see what it actually comes out like. If we mock one up, then there's no misunderstanding, and it's exactly what the client wants. It's a really good option.
Back on site, Emma is overseeing the delivery of the new £6,000 Aga.
It's kind of coming together. It's kind of the start of the kitchen and things like that, so it's really exciting. So it's good. Yeah, it's good, and it's nice to see the sort of digger and stuff. It's like, feels everything's picking up speed again.
It's just as well that work on site is making progress. Emma's now on maternity leave, and it's not long before a much more important delivery arrives.
Bit of a false alarm yesterday. Last night. We didn't really. I had a few pains, and Dyson's worrying. So I don't think I'll be having many more days down at site.
With not long to go, the first parts of the kitchen start being delivered.
They're going to be paying about £8,000 for this kitchen, whereas, like I say, if they'd have gone elsewhere, they'd have been looking to pay 15 to 20,000, and that's fitted. And it is all bespoke. There's no infill panels and the likes. This has been built to this opening.
This is really good value, which can only be good news for their budget.
How's your budget going?
There's areas we've saved and there's areas we've gone over, and every time we've gone over, we've tried to sort of cut back in other areas.
Because you're originally planning on spending £135,000 on total on the whole development, and that's pretty much still on
I think
track.
we're still pretty much there. The only surprise that we've had is because of the speed it's gone at, is that we're having to shell out a lot more quickly than we imagined. So we spent £35,000 on moving here, and then another 60,000 on building works. We spent 100 grand practically so far.
They've spent the best part of their £135,000 budget, and they're not even halfway through the project. And it's not just the budget they need to take control of. The schedule is also in danger of slipping, especially as it's no longer their top priority.
It seems so insignificant. Doing the house now is just like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's really irrelevant to life in general, in my opinion. We don't know yet, we might have...
Yeah, we might have made it right.
We might have really,
Pig's ear of it all, and someone said,
lost all our money, yeah.
That house is only worth 50 quid, you know.
Yeah, so, oh shit. But I just want to get it done now.
Yeah, I think I do. It's just time to focus. Let's crack on, get it on the market, let's go.
Yeah.
Emma and Dyson have decided to live in the development while they wait for it to sell, because they want to try and make it feel like a home. But 3 weeks later, now that Emma has stopped project managing, things haven't moved on as much as they'd hoped.
Should we go through the list, room by room, and work out what they've done and what they haven't done? We've just been around the house, and there's still loads to be done on it. You know, we're probably not even half the stuff on the list has been done. There's so much to do in here. I'm quite stressed at the moment, actually. I find it quite hard to manage. This is one of the areas that need the most amount of work. It really is irritating me that, you know, we are having to come back and micromanage to get stuff done on time.
Somehow they need to speed this project up, especially as the builders are being paid on a weekly rate. I'd recommend trying to get a fixed price for the entire job to take the pressure off the project manager pushing the job along.
I have a new plan to motivate the builders, and that is to get a flipboard and write down everything that needs to be done and leave it on site with a date that we are moving in on. I don't know if it's going to work or not, if it's just something that's a bit gimmicky, but it's worth a shot. I expect it'll get graffiti, no doubt. I'm quite interested to see what they say.
What, the flip chart?
The ship chart, is that what you're trying to say?
I thought it was very informative.
Yeah.
1 week later, Emma comes back on site to find that her flip chart has been a success. The kitchen is finally in.
Fantastic!
Oh, wow, it's huge.
Oh, wow! Oh, my God, the windows are in! Oh, wow! Excellent, isn't it? Oh, my God! Oh, what a difference it makes to this room. It's getting to that point where you can see the end, and it's getting very exciting. Although I've been told it's only 3 weeks left to go. I have been told that for the last 3 weeks.
Finally, things start to pick up speed.
There's the old 80-20 law, which 80% of the work gets done, and it's the last 20% that takes 80% of the time. And that's always the problem.
And it's the last 20% that's also the most important, especially on a luxury development like this, because it's the attention to detail that's going to set your property apart. The finishing touches on Emma and Dyson's property are exactly what they need. Elegantly restored fire surrounds to the polished oak floors, every detail must be right to stand a chance of making their money. And because Emma and Dyson are going to live there, it means they can use their own furniture to create the look and feel of a real family home. But for Emma and Dyson, the sooner they can see the back of it, the better.
This isn't a home.
I'm not excited about moving in at all.
All it is just a bet. This is just a big bet. And we're gambling on the fact we might make some more money.
The only question with this development is going to be whether this area can carry a house this good or expensive. It's been 6 months since Emma and Dylon Watkins started renovating their Grade 2 listed farmhouse. When they started the project, they were listed building novices, and it's been a baptism of fire, but they've finally done it. And what a result!
I'm really pleased with what we've done, and also glad it's over. We just need to sell it, and that's the hardest bit.
They've transformed it from a shabby rundown farmhouse into a spectacular modern luxury home. In the end, they decided to work around the existing layout, which I think was a wise move. Whilst they've kept its period character, they've transported it into the 21st century.
I feel quite relieved and also very proud of what we've done. You know, we had a visualisation of how this house would look, and I think it's kind of achieved what I hoped, and even a bit more actually.
Upstairs, the bedrooms have been restored to their former splendour. The panelled room has been repainted, and although ideally for modern living the master bedroom would have an ensuite, listed buildings mean compromises, and that seems a small one to pay. Especially when you see the 2 bathrooms they have got. Downstairs, they've turned the old kitchen into an elegant drawing room. The great choice of colours in this room and in the dining room, offset by the beautifully restored windows, really takes these rooms back to how they would have looked in their prime. But the biggest success is the new kitchen breakfast room, which has brought the house alive. Dyson's design is excellent, and at £8,000, I have to say, I think this kitchen is worth every single penny.
God, fantastic kitchen. Whoever buys this house is going to end up just hanging out.
This will be the main room in the house, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this absolutely suits our lifestyles currently. I mean, developing is all about trying to make a house ideally fit somebody's lifestyle. And nowadays, families hang out in kitchens.
I think this is the room that will sell the house.
Everything you've done in terms of layout is the optimum. It couldn't be better, the house. So,
thank you very much. Have you ever said that before?
No. The only question with this development is going to be whether this area can carry a house this good or expensive.
And that's always been the biggest gamble. No matter how well this development's been done, the asking price will always be dictated by the local market.
You bought the house for £580,000, didn't you? Yeah. How much did you end up spending on this development?
We spent £181,000 on it.
So that's in total, including everything?
Yeah, I think...
all our costs, all our fees.
Exactly.
So that's actually a total of £760,000 on this project?
Yeah.
That's an overspend of £46,000, which will eat straight into their profit. The extra labour and materials needed for a listed building took that cost from £49,000 to £60,000. The roof and guttering ended up costing £15,000. The electrics went from £7,800 to £10,200. Plumbing and the new central heating ended up costing £18,000. Having to install a special Aga upped the cost of the kitchen to £14,100. The bathrooms came in on budget at £6,500. The cost of the mortgage and buying the property came in just over at £45,200. Plus the estate agent's fees, which they'd forgotten in the original budget, cost £12,000. Taking their budget of £135,000 to £181,000. Emma and Dyson originally hoped to sell this house for £850,000. With their overspend, that would give them a profit of £89,000 if they get that top price.
Wow, I think it's definitely got the wow factor. Very useful room. Very important to a house like this.
Nice original timbers and a brick fireplace.
Well, with a view like that, you'd never want to get out of the bath.
A nice fireplace. I suspect it's probably not original, but is very much in keeping with the room.
Wow, this is fantastic.
Fantastic kitchen, breakfast, family room.
Good 4-oven Aga, essential piece of kit for a country house. Superb. This will be a major
selling feature to this house.
I think it really will appeal to perhaps the South East Londoners looking to retire to the area.
I think that the thing that makes it more difficult to value is the combination of what it is with where it is.
Its proximity to Hastings is probably a disadvantage. It doesn't quite have the cachet that towns like Rye or Tenterden would have.
There's nothing wrong with the area, it's just that there's less influence from London money down here.
I would put the property on the market at a guide price of £725,000.
I value this house at a figure in the region of £775,000.
I value this house at £850,000.
This massive variation in valuations is not good news, but not particularly surprising. The property is so unique, even the estate agents can't agree a price. Emma and Dyson put everything into this development and now could be facing a £40,000 loss.
Well, the three valuations did come in at 725, 775 and 850. So you've got to take the middle of them, roughly.
Yeah, that's what we were always working on, because we didn't go on the lowest, and we didn't go...
Unbelievable difference. 725 to 850.
It isn't surprising, actually, though, I have to say, if you got the middle valuation, which is 775, you'd make £15,000.
Yeah, it's not worth it in my mind. I wouldn't move for that.
But at the end of the day, it is actually still a profit.
But what matters now is what someone's actually prepared to pay for the property.
Wow, lovely, absolutely lovely.
Oh, this is brilliant.
This is my favourite. I don't like the lights at all. I think they're horrible.
Oh, wow. Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Beautiful beams, beautiful floor, massive kitchen.
Wonderful. Hold the champagne at the end. Very nice.
Real family room. And knowing we all live in our kitchen these days is the most important thing.
If you could lift this house up and put it in a different area, then it probably would be worth 850.
And I would think somewhere between 650 and 750 would be a fair price for it.
Probably I would be thinking in this area about 750.
With no immediate offers, selling the property for $850,000 may be a little ambitious.
When you first went into this project, did you think it might be easy money?
No, not at all. We knew from the outset that this house could be worth less than the money we'd spent on it. That was always a very real risk.
Would you do it again?
I'd certainly consider doing it again, but I think I wouldn't put all our eggs in one basket. But we turned a house from an old family home back into something that's a really lovely place to live.
You should be proud of this house, because this house is really lovely now, and it's about as good as it could possibly be. So whoever gets it's lucky. It's just a question of whether you can get that price.
Yeah, exactly. But we won't take something that we're not happy with.
In the meantime, it'll be rather nice living in it, won't it?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Emma and Dyson went into this project with their eyes closed. They had no idea what was involved in restoring a Grade 2 listed building. And they didn't even know if there was a market for this kind of development in Hastings. It was a gamble of over £750,000. Now that the house is finally on the market, they're going to find out if it paid off.
Emma and Dyson decided to put the house on the market at £825,000, which would give them a £64,000 profit.